Did Mark Zuckerberg just waste $50 billion, or is he building the next internet before anyone else could even see it? In 2021, he renamed Facebook to Meta and went all in on a single bet. Since then, billions have burned, investors have revolted, and even critics called it a ghost town. But underneath this chaos lies a much bigger question. Is this madness or a strategy? In 2021, Facebook was under fire from every direction. Whistleblowers leaked the company internal documents showing that the app knew it could cause mental harm and spread false information. And that triggered the regulators in the US and Europe to investigate whether Facebook had really become too powerful. And at the same time, TikTok was exploding, stealing the younger audience before Facebook even responded. And then came the biggest blow. Apple has changed its privacy rules. Overnight, Meta could no longer track the iPhones same way. And that single switch swiped out nearly $10 billion a year in ad revenue alone. For Zuckerberg, message was clear. If Meta just stayed as a social media company, its future would depend on other platforms. So he did something radical. He burnt the boats. He renamed Facebook to Meta and hired tens and thousands of AR and VR and told Wall Street to expect profits to shrink for next few years. It wasn't just a rebrand, it was an escape plan to control the next platform instead of being trapped in someone else's platform. But once the gamble began, losses were staggering. Reality Labs, the division building Meta's headsets and virtual worlds, lost $10 billion in 2021 alone and another $13 billion in 2022, and by 2023, the total burnout had crossed $50 billion. To put that in perspective, Meta spends more in chasing Metaverse in 3 years than NASA spends in 1 year. And what did all the money buy? Just a handful of headsets and a digital world that almost felt empty. Internal reports showed less than 200,000 monthly users. Most didn't even return after their first month. Even Meta's employees joke, saying an empty world is a sad world. Investors lost patience. Meta's stock crashed 70% from its peak, wiping out hundreds of billions of dollars in value. One of the biggest shareholders of Meta wrote an open letter to Zuckerberg begging cut down the investment. But instead of retreating, Zuckerberg doubled it down. He appeared inside his own virtual world as a cartoon avatar, insisting this was a long-term play. The gamble was bleeding billions. Investors doubted him, but Zuckerberg refused to quit. And as Meta was struggling, Apple arrived with its own headset, the Vision Pro. But Apple never once used the word Metaverse. Instead, it called spatial computing. Where Zuckerberg pitched the social worlds and legless avatars, Apple showed something different. Your Mac screen floating in the midair, movies on a giant virtual theaters, work apps hovering across your desk. Meta priced its quest for just few $100s, hoping for a mass adoption. Whereas Apple priced the Vision Pro at $3,500, targeting only luxury buyers and professionals. Two companies, two different visions. Where Meta focused on cheap headset, shared world, and virtual avatars, and Apple focused more on premium device, productivity, and for personal use. And this is the battle played out. The buzz around the tech has shifted. Microsoft scaled back to its metaverse projects. Disney shut down its metaverse vision. And suddenly, the spotlight moved from VR to AI. Meta still talked about its metaverse, but the earnings dominated AI. The word metaverse was fading, even inside the Meta itself. So the question is, why doesn't Zuckerberg stop? The reason he doesn't stop is, for him, Metaverse isn't just about headsets or cartoon avatars. It is about control. If Meta just stays as an app on someone else's platform, Google and Apple will always set the rule. Own the operating system, then you can own the ecosystem too. And it is the exact same playbook Apple has used with the iPhone. So now let's understand what is actually happening inside the metaverse. The Quest 2 headset is hit by VR standards. 20 million units were sold, making it one of the best selling VR devices ever made. People use it for gaming, fitness, and even for virtual concert. Meta is rebuilding Horizon World with better graphics and adding a mobile version too, and pushing productivity and fitness apps that people actually use. Outside Meta, platforms like Roblox and Fortnite prove that shared digital spaces can thrive even if they do not require a headset. Critics say it is madness. This is the most expensive wrong turn in the history. But believers see a strategy. Every platform shift from PC to smartphone to cloud started with years of losses before finding its killer app. For Zuckerberg, it is simple. If Meta controls the platform, it could escape Apple and Google grip. If not, it stays trapped forever just as an app on their devices. So here is the final truth. $50 million can build a ghost town or a blueprint for the next internet itself. And that's the gamble Mark Zuckerberg is willing to make.